What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Zarxces here, giving my first impression basis of the new video released by IGN about the Elder Scrolls Online, and I'm going to hit on some of the topics the developer spoke about from an MMO and Elder Scroll fan point of view. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you do, remember to subscribe, and thank you for watching.
So Elder Scrolls Online, it's set 1,000 years before Skyrim. And not only is it 1,000 years before Skyrim, but it draws on all the legends and everything that you've read about in the books that you find in Elder Scrolls games. So we've got 20 years of lore to draw upon.
Being set 1,000 years before Skyrim, that is a bunch of lore for fans to really indulge themselves in and get enveloped with. 20 years of lore for the developer team to work with is a huge amount to draw upon, and it can be really beneficial as lore really does make an Elder Scroll game.
We made sure that Morrowind, Cyrodiil, and Skyrim feel like they do in Elder Scrolls 3, 4, and 5. The art style is right in line with those titles. Now you can explore all of Tamriel. You can return to places that you've seen before, and you can explore new places that you've never been.
This I feel is a little more minor, but it's still important. Artwork doesn't necessarily make or break a game, but it definitely helps. With that being said, the consistency for them to make the areas look like they did in the previous Elder Scrolls is important, as people will look back on it and be thrust back into the mystical world they remember seeing for the first time when they walked out of the sewers or the burning village and saw a vast expanse ahead of them, just as I did. Nothing can describe that feeling of looking across that river in Cyrodiil and seeing those ruins and having the mystery of what's in them flood your mind. For a new player unfamiliar with the Elder Scrolls series, they will not recognize areas, but they should enjoy the look of it as I for one do, and most Elder Scrolls players genuinely do.
This is an Elder Scrolls combat system. Moving your mouse will make you look around and aim your weapon. You can tap your left click to attack, hold it to power, hold your right click to block, and of course sprinting, crouching, and sneaking around play a role.
So the combat system is more player involved, which I think is what a lot of players want to see in an MMO. For example, less hotkey action and auto-attacking, but instead more manually blocking, swinging, shooting, casting, etc. When comparing it to an MMO, it is something similar to the likes of either Guild Wars 2 or Terra's combat system, as far as I know anyways. Overall, I think done right, this can bring in a newer generation of MMO and have the Elder Scrolls feel as well.
All of our characters are designed so that hundreds of them can be on screen at one time. You're going to have lots of customization options to make your character look unique. You'll find Dwarven armors, Daedric armors, Elven armors, basically all the types of armor styles and customization options that you expect from an Elder Scrolls game and the Elder Scrolls lore.
Customization. The main point made. Customization is vastly important in an Elder Scrolls game, and if you've played an Elder Scrolls game, you know that. Customization is a main point in an RPG, but not always in MMOs. Making your character stand out from the rest is something I feel MMOs genuinely fail to do, although Guild Wars 2 did pretty well, along with WoW's transmogrification. Elder Scrolls could bring out a whole new level of customization with their many different armor types, races, classes, etc., which I think could pull in not only Elder Scroll fans, but MMO fans in general, as most people who play MMOs or RPGs love customization.
By far the worst experience of any online game is at its launch when you're trying to find your friends. You can't find people, you create a character on one shard and then you find out everyone else is on another shard and you have to move. That experience is not good. So we are not going to have shards. We have a technology we call Mega Server where all players are on one server. So all your friends are right there, you just create a character, you click play and you go. The game is smart about where to put you. It puts you in game spaces with your friends, with your guildmates. It's a way to be connected with everyone and the game figures out where to put you.
The idea of a mega server baffles me to no end. As a player of WoW, Guild Wars, etc., servers have always generally been a common thing in most MMOs I've ever played. But with one giant mega server, my mind can't handle the fact that so many players could be on at one time in one given area. Although I assume that with this mega server will come the technologies of phasing, which brings you into your own little phase with your buddies or your own quest, etc. I think if this is done right, this can take away the hassle of picking a server and you can also have one big community. Although one minor issue I have is when servers go down, everything will go off since it's all one server, at least as far as I know. It's just one thing, but it could possibly have its issues. Overall, I like the idea, but my mind is still baffled by it.
So with Elder Scrolls Online, one of the big things is that you'll be able to get together with your friends and overcome obstacles. So things like public dungeons, heroic dungeons, but most importantly, when you participate with your friends or even just with strangers, you're not competing for resources. You're all working together to overcome something, and you get equal credit for that.
With the dungeons in the Elder Scrolls Online, it's all equal credit, which when they say that, I assume no loot rolls and you all get something from working together, which is a cool idea, but it could possibly remove the competition for loot and the push for loot. But then again, will the Elder Scrolls Online be all about loot, or will it be about wrapping you up in the story and learning more about it?
The basis for the customization system in Elder Scrolls Online is that you can use whatever weapon or armor type you actually want to use. You can play as a heavy armor character who's a tank with bow, or you can play as a mage who uses a two-handed weapon, or you can play as a sneaky guy who runs around healing people. The combination that you selected out of what armor type you use, what weapon type you use, and what class you use really creates a unique character experience for you.
So essentially, you can be a battle mage. Sounds awesome, right? I've always been for the idea of a mage wearing heavy armor, or a tank somehow tanking with a bow. Your class will not be limited to a certain armor and or weapon type, which most MMOs do. I love this idea. Too many MMOs center around the idea of a mage with cloth and staff, just for example. How about a BA mage with a 2H sword and heavy armor? That's why I love the level of customization they are offering to us. It makes your character stand out amongst others and can offer a different playstyle to yourself and to others around you. It's more of a personal love, but I'm glad they are doing it with their game.
Questing in Elder Scrolls Online was built around a pretty simple concept, and that was that we wanted the player to explore. And we wanted, when the player explored, for them to be able to see something around a corner and say, oh, well, I was on this quest, but now I see something over there that's really interesting. And so they had this decision point of, you know, which thing do I do next? And that's really where we want the player to go. It's not what do I do next, it's which one of these things do I do next.
The way a player finds quests in our game is really through exploration. As they wander around the world, we have an on-screen compass, and that really points out the areas of opportunity or points of interest to the player.
Questing, the biggest part before the end game of an MMO, or at least I think so. Finding quests through exploration will be interesting, because in Elder Scrolls you can explore, find little things, and go forever just looking through caves trying to find little knickknacks while leveling up. It's my hope that this will turn out for the best, because if this is truly an Elder Scrolls game in MMO form like they say it is, then I should be able to level up by exploring a random cave because it interests me. Hopefully they get that and they can offer that to us. Also, let's hope it's not a bunch of quest text, because we all love reading quest text, right?
Once you hit level 50, that's really where the game opens up. At this point, you're going into Cyrodiil to PvP, or you're deciding you want to go on a heroic raid with your guild and your friends, or maybe you might go into an adventure zone, which is our way of getting you into a zone where you can play solo, you can play with a small group, or you can play with a really large group to overcome obstacles.
In-game, ladies and gents. The actual game, or so it's argued, of an MMO. So at in-game they are offering raids, I would assume dungeons, they are also offering adventure modes and PvP. Typical of an MMO, and I didn't expect less. I can't really say much because there isn't a lot of information right now on what will be inside said raids, dungeons, adventure modes, and PvP in itself is pretty self-explanatory, but hopefully they can keep us around when in-game actually hits, unlike most MMOs do.
PvP in Elder Scrolls Online is focused around taking various structures in Cyrodiil. If you remember Cyrodiil from Oblivion, the space is very large, and that's a perfect setting for having three alliances fight each other. During this timeline, Imperial City is up for grabs, and there's no Emperor, so players are going to be fighting using trebuchets, catapults, all kinds of weaponry to take and hold keeps, structures, and resource fixtures around the keep to actually give the opportunity to crown one of themselves as an Emperor.
PvP will be focused in Cyrodiil, which I think is absolutely awesome, and I agree with that completely. So essentially, to get down to it, it's a lot like World v World with Guild Wars 2. Each faction gets a piece of Cyrodiil, and they all three fight over the Empire with seized weapons and armies of the like, right back to World v World with Guild Wars 2. This is where one massive server could be absolutely awful or absolutely epic, with the potential for massive, and I mean massive armies, because this is all on one server, mind you. Overall, you are trying to crown your faction as Emperor, and that is the ultimate goal. With comparison in mind, I would say it reminds me of Guild Wars 2 most, and has a lot of potential to be a ton of fun.
With a game the size of The Elder Scrolls Online, it's really hard to, in one demo, one presentation, one video, to list everything about the game. So what you've heard today are the basics. Over time, we're going to go into more depth in everything you've heard about today, and then all the other systems which we haven't talked about yet.
All these elements are going to come together and make Elder Scrolls Online the next great online RPG.
I do hope that it will be the next great online RPG. I look forward to covering the progression of this game and all it has to offer. I will be covering it best I can until release and thereon after. I hope you enjoyed this first impressions that I had of that video. Please be sure to subscribe, and as always, you guys have a good one.